welcome back. We're in for a real treat now, and we're going to get straight up on stage Nick van Marken, who is my dear friend, having known Nick for at least 35 years now. And Nick, thank you so much for hosting this next session, which we're all looking forward to.
Thanks,
so,
Jonathan.
over to you.
Thank you.
You got the mic? Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thanks for interrupting your coffee break. It was worth it, I can assure you. I'm delighted to say that this morning we've got an opportunity to hear from one of the industry's really interesting executives, Sébastien Bazin, Chairman and CEO of Accor. And he's coming in live from Paris. Sébastien, you can hear us?
Nick, I can hear you very well. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Bonjour. And
Bonjour.
bienvenue. Your team are sitting here in the front row, you'll be pleased to know.
I know they wanted the technology not to work, that way they can be on stage instead of me.
Yeah, Mark was trying to suggest that he could step up. He's still ready to do it, just so you know. So Sébastien, thanks so much for joining us. I thought it would be interesting just to talk through a few key areas which I would group under a series of headings. Maybe some reflections on the last 18 months, your thoughts on performance and the shape of the recovery, what you're seeing around the world, some of the challenges and consequences of the pandemic that are coming out of this, both good and bad. I know that the environment is very close to your heart and what you're doing at Accor, so I'd like to touch on that because if anything, that feels like the next crisis, and it also feels like it's upon us. And then maybe some thoughts on the future. So that's where we'll go. But before we do that, I thought I'd just ask, what a lot of people I know in the audience are thinking. How is Lionel Messi doing at PSG?
He's doing well. He played on Sunday night, and PSG won 2-1 with a kind of actually mediocre match. And Messi is certainly a great champion. No, he's doing well, except he didn't finish the match. The coach replaced him, and he was not too happy with this. I just wanted first to, seriously, Nick, sorry not to be with you. I made a commitment to be in Dubai with you, and I wanted to, but I needed to attend my best friend's father's funeral, which is today. So I could not do both, which is why I decided, I guess, to be next to my friend. But it's a great session, and nobody's going to come out the same after the last 18 months. And unfortunately, it may last another 3 to 4 months. And I would have never guessed this in March 2020. And I've been reflecting enormously on what I have learned personally, professionally. I think I'll have the answer, better answer within a year from now because I need to sit on it. But as of this minute, what I've learned out of it is a true notion of humility. Accepting that when you are a leader of a large company, and of course I am at the helm, you have to accept that I guess there's a lot of things you don't control anymore. You don't control the pandemic, you don't control people traveling, you don't control vaccination, you don't control frontiers reopening, you don't control your people coming back to work because you've been asking them not to come back to work because you've been closing hotels. So all of a sudden within 1 week, 80% of what I used to control was out of my hands and probably in the hands of people who probably knew better. So what we have done is trying to focus on the controllables. And the only thing which I spend so much time on are actually two. One, people of Accor. I've been saying it, but I want to say it in front of you again. And sorry for those who heard it before, but it's with me and it's not going to go away. You have to understand that in the end of March 2020, on the 25th of March, when I knew China was closing down, so was Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And we knew he would be the same all over Europe. and in many other territories. In 2 hours, I had to make an atrocious, unfair decision in writing to 300,000 people in 110 countries that we're going to be closing 100% of the Accor hotel network within the 1st of April. 5 days notice. And for a lot of those people, I knew by sending that email and calling people on the ground, many of them will not get any paycheck on the 7th of April because of lack of government subsidies. And a decision I have made, I had probably no other choice, but with huge impact on thousands, tens of thousands of Accor people. So I, thank God, the same day I got the board of directors to agree that we set aside $100 million in a fund called All Artists in trying to provide necessary funds for all those employees without any paycheck to be able to be treated at hospital if necessary and to get food for their own families. And you know, Nick, it's been now 16 months. And as of last night, we have given subsidies to 100,000 people of Accor for a bit more than $35 to $40 million. And I've made that day the worst ever decision and probably the best decision within the same afternoon. So what I've learned is to be close to those being impacted. And what I've learned is it has been incredible for me that many of those individuals, while they were no longer at the office, have been mobilizing their own energy. They've been providing initiatives. They have been very generous. They've been frontline, helping doctors, nurses, whatever, hospital, firemen, you name it. I've discovered thousands of great people I did not even know prior to the pandemic. So, and I'll stop there. So my conclusion, what I've learned about this crisis is the hotel is clearly 99% human capital. And that's why I actually left finance industry to join the hotel industry. It's all about men and women, whether they are working at Hilton, Accor, Marriott, it does not matter actually. That's what we're all about, is caring for others.
Sébastien, I know that one of the things that you've talked about previously is how you've found leaders. I mean, you're talking about human capital, but I know that one of the driving forces at Accor at the moment is your drive to move the sort of center of gravity, if you like, back to the field and let people in the field really drive their business. I know you've said it when we've talked before. You've said that you believe those people are better placed to run the business. Have you been surprised by the sort of discovery, if you like, of new leadership? And is a lot of that young people? Is there anything that you can, any conclusions you can draw about the people that are sort of emerging out of the other side of this?
Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with age, has nothing to do with ethnics or nationalities. It's just one of the lessons I've learned. And again, I should have learned about it a long time ago. It's kind of sad that we have to wait for pandemic to discover it. Is one hotel has huge impact, whether it is building, carbon emission, food waste, procurement, energy consumption, huge impact on local community. And huge impact on trying to help discover their own environment, whether it's architecture and gastronomy and other things. They know so much better than me sitting in Paris. So it was time to give the keys of any decision-making processes to the guys who know better. And if they fail on making the wrong decision, then ask for other people to join in. But until they fail, 8 decisions out of 10 are very good decisions. And that 2 bad one, I probably have a worse ratio if I were to make the decision in Paris. So just give them authority, empower them, give them the pride of being in charge, and try to concentrate on back of their house, whether it's distribution, IT, loyalty system. For the rest, brand, customer journey, relationship, government, just give it to them. And it's very much reverse of what my peers have been doing. I think 80% of what's going on now is in the hands of Mark Willis here, seated on the front row with you. He knows much better the region than I do, and that's fine. Actually, no, that's not fine. It's actually much better.
Can we talk a little about performance now? We've obviously heard from a sort of macro perspective from SDR and various commentators over the last 24 hours what they're seeing. I mean, across your business, how would you describe performance, and where do you think you are on the recovery? I realize it's obviously very mixed, but it would be great to just hear a little bit about how it's going. I hear from Mark that this region is performing strongly. How's it going elsewhere?
It's you said it, Nick. It's very, very mixed, and it's even changing over the summer. So, like, if you go really from west to east, America has been super strong in terms of rebound for domestic and leisure, much stronger than I ever expected myself. But it's been slowing down since the 10th of August until now. So watch out. It's still much stronger than any place else, but it's not as strong as it was for the 6 months at the beginning of the year. Canada is resisting and still coping with America. South America is very fragile, but countries like Chile, Peru do better than Brazil and Argentina. When you go then to Europe, great summer all over southern, northern Europe, much better than I expected, but great summer in resorts, Atlantic shore in the Med. But when you talk about the big cities, whether it's Berlin, Frankfurt, Paris, Athens, Venice, those had tough summers, which is why the outlook for the corporate business in those large cities of Europe in the months of October, November, December, I have no idea whether it's going to be good, better, or worse than I expect myself. You go to Southeast Asia, it's a disaster. Frontiers are closed from Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Everything's closed. You cannot go from one country to the other, and they are 80% depending on outside markets. China is rebounding, as did America, because of the density and the size of the market. Then you go to Australia. It was good until they closed up all the provinces in July, so it's tough, very tough as we speak because they are in lockdowns. And Middle East, Turkey, strong summer and continues to be strong. And I'm super happy that I guess we have Dubai Expo starting in a week. That's going to be a great boost for the entire region. And Africa is very slow. So it's that's Nick. I really thought for a long time that Accor, being so diversified and leader in so many of those markets, will be probably the best buffer for Accor's performances. And I've learned that a pandemic hits me wherever I sit. So it hasn't been a buffer, but at least we know what works. And there's not something we know and we've learned is vaccination rollout is the solution for all of us to get back on our feet. And we've seen what's been happening announced last night in Washington, which I did not expect. I really thought Washington would not reopen before January 2022. They've been gutsy, audacious enough to make an announcement last night. It's a blessing. And that probably should help Singapore, Australia to make similar decision when the vaccination is going to reach probably 60 or 70% threshold. So it's bumpy, but as a leader, accept it, navigate through it, communicate. And the only thing I have to do, which I'm doing with you, is the leader has to communicate with honesty. I can share that I guess I have some doubt and I don't know much, but embark. Just tell them you have positive energy. Tell them hospitality is still a blessed industry, and just make sure they follow you and you embark them. And we haven't talked about it yet, Nick. The biggest problem I have is not the pandemic. The pandemic is probably going to be behind me. It has to do with labor shortage. A lot of people have left the industry and probably no will to come back. And there is 3 reasons for this. One is they appreciated the time spent with their family, and they recognize the sacrifices they have made by sacrificing weekends and evenings being away. And all of a sudden, they're being close to their friends and members of family, and they don't want to repeat and to be working those late hours. 2, it's people who just decided to move from where they were to another destination, another town, and therefore they're no longer in the same premises. And 3, they want a higher pay or they want a higher recognition. So as leader, me and the other guys, we'd better wake up. We have been blind for too long I didn't say taking advantage because I hate this, but we did not offer enough evolution, enough career paths, enough recognition on who they were for the people working for us. It's time that we also care for them on recognizing the talents and retain them. We have to show them, and yeah, we have to show them the way. And every 3 years, they should change job, change brand, change probably towns, and make sure they have fun in their life. A wake-up call for us, but it's going to be tough.
Yes, you highlight two critical issues there, right? One is how people are going to be able to move and travel, with your suggestion that the vaccine is going to be the route out of this, but carrying evidence of this is going to be essential. And then, of course, how are we going to deal with this big pickup in demand that we're all imagining is around the corner? I know you've talked about this previously. Any changes in your thoughts about the return of business travel? Are you less confident, more confident? I know you feel there's an element of that may have simply disappeared.
No, yeah, I said it, and this is what we do now, which is why I like it, because I'm on the phone with you and by video, and I hate it because it works. And precisely because it works and it is efficient, people may no longer travel because they're going to do the same thing I'm doing now, which I obviously dislike. That being said, I am very optimistic on domestic intra-regional business travelers. They will be back. Those stays are less than 2 nights. It's not too costly, and they need it to really fulfill and increase their own businesses. So from Amsterdam to Paris, Paris to Milan, within the same region, or intra-France, don't you worry about it. Those will come back 99% to what it was pre-pandemic within probably 6 to 18 months. Super comfortable with this. The international business travelers, the guy from Seattle to Paris or from London to Singapore, I said for the last 15 months, Nick, to the risk of being wrong, and I hope I'm going to be wrong, I said we stand to lose at least 25% of those travelers because they're going to be able to do it on Zoom. But, and there's a huge but, for the same cause, which I don't like because of the loss of business, there is a great advantage is that will provide a true ability for hundreds of millions of workers, wherever they sit, to be able to work remotely and no longer go to their own headquarters and offices. And we know, I mean, you have 70% of the people, wherever they sit, saying no more than 2 days back to the office. Those 3 days left in the week, they're going to be able to work either from home, or they're going to be able to go for a resort or another city to discover Rome and work on Thursday, Friday, Monday in Rome. This is a blessing for the hotel industry. All of a sudden, and I was looking for this for the last 6 years on something I've launched and miserably failed, called Accor Local. It's about time we also wake up to the mere fact that you have 7.5 billion people living on this planet, 1.5 billion international travelers, that's good enough. But there's 6 billion people who do not travel, but those guys live next door to my hotel. They know Ibis, Novotel, Mercure, Raffles, whatever you name it, because they live next door. And I find I can now welcome them to the hotel lobby, to the hotel auditorium, to the hotel bar, restaurant, to make sure that through that digital tool, they can be working remotely and meet somebody within the hotel premises. There's no better destination, open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Only 3 of us exist: hospital, police stations, and hotels. All of a sudden, you're going to be welcoming hundreds of millions of people, basically spending 2 hours, spending 2 days, and we're going to be serving them as well as we would do, except they don't need a shower and they don't need a room. And that population is far greater, far better than the risk of losing 25% of international business travel. That's going to come along with technology, it's going to come along with ability to book. And one great advantage of it, so to my friends on Booking Expedia in the room in Dubai, those guys who's going to be coming to my hotel who lives next door, they will not go on Booking or on Expedia because they know my premises for the last 20 years, except they never dared to enter because there was no need of it. So in terms of acquisition of customers and retention, it's going to be a walk in the park. So that is, which is why I'm actually very happy. I hated what I've been going through, but we're not dead. And same thing on labor, Nick. Sorry to take so long, but you know, when you reflect on labor shortage, Accor has been I mean, it's been a miracle for the last 50 years of my life, or 50 years of Accor, is we hire, people don't know about it, but we open one hotel per day, one new hotel per day. That means 365 hotels. We need 50,000 people to fill up those 365 hotels. We have 300,000 people. We lose 10% turnover every year, which is absolutely normal. That's an additional 30,000. So every year, Accor has been able in 2017, 18, 19 to hire 80,000 new people. That probably makes us in the top 10 in the world in terms of new hires every year. And guess what? 50% of those 80,000 people we hire every year have no prior education. So in all the countries of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, in what we have done in Chile, Peru, Colombia, Sri Lanka, we've been able to be a social elevator through the Accor Academy and to basically teach them and welcome them in the Accor, in the hospitality industry. And with all the disasters in the world, from Yemen, from Afghanistan, from Libya, there's so many people looking for a job. Just show your hand and basically welcome them. So it's going to be tough. They probably have no prior quality of expertise. It does not matter. Be indulgent and give them a job. So we will find those people. But we need to go back on having a very clear, scripted, well done, generous academy. And that's what Accor has been proposing to many governments on saying building a tourism industry is fine. But it comes along with also make sure that your local population will be the guys basically welcoming the foreigners.
Spoken with true passion. I know one of the other areas that you're very passionate about is what I term the sort of current new emergency, climate change. I mean, what we've seen in California, Europe, you know, New York had a flood emergency. It's never had that before. You've just appointed Brune Poisson. Do you believe the industry is doing enough in this area? And anything you wanted to say on this sort of area? I realize we could talk about that alone for 30 minutes, and I realize we've got a follow-on session which touches on that, but just your thoughts on that.
Well, I have huge respect for Krishna Seta and many of my peers, and he said it in Berlin, and I was in the room. No, we haven't done enough. As I told you, we're being blind on treating, we should have been treated our own people better to retain them. And we have been not really blind, but I guess we've been acting separately from each other on CSR, planet-friendly initiative, and it's time that I guess we act together, which is why a bit later today we're going to be announcing that Accor is joining this Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, where we're going to be working hand in hand between Marriott, Hilton, NH, and the Xinjiang and many other groups, all of us actually, finally sharing good and best practices on how to be more mindful of how much carbon emission we basically, unfortunately, we actually display through a Accor building or hotel. What should we be doing for local procurement? What we should be doing for reducing energy? How should we be better on diversity, on inclusion? How should we be fighting gender-based violence, which we do with United Nations? Should we be promoting sustainable tourism, which we do with Expedia, with UNESCO? So there's a lot of things that each of us do separately without knowing. And it's time not to be egocentric. It's time to, if we were to muscle all together, which we are now, I can tell you the market will be huge on the industry because we know how to measure our own impact. And we know that, I guess, the hotel tourism space represents 10% of the world GDP and 10% of the job existing on this planet. So we probably are one of the biggest actors, so we can make a difference. But it was, again, time to share, time to talk, time to listen, and time to act.
And time to wrap it up, I'm afraid. But I know you're going to be staying here. Wolfgang, I think, will be on stage imminently. But ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time with Sébastien. But please, put your hands together and say thanks for joining us from Paris.
Thank you. Ciao.